For many football fans, there's nothing quite like seeing an offense go up and down the field, effortlessly putting up points on opposing defenses, and it can be quite the sight to behold. There have been many great offenses during the Super Bowl era, but a select few have risen to the level of the ones we are about to look at. Today, we will be counting down the era's 10 best offenses, and we will be doing that the way we always do, by using C-score, specifically offensive C-score. This channel's metric for determining the quality of every NFL team during the Super Bowl era. For a deeper explanation of C-score in all its forms, be sure to check out the description of this video. Thank you very much for joining us today. We're ready to get this thing kick-started. Coming in at number 10 is the offense of the 2011 Green Bay Packers, and this offense needed to do work because that defense wasn't anything special. They were able to go 15-1 while leading the league in scoring despite only playing a bottom 5 schedule. That didn't stop this team from putting up an offensive C-score of 29.137. The defending Super Bowl champion Packers put up 560 points this season. That was exactly 35 points per game, well more than over 50% of the league average. The New Orleans Saints were nipping on their heels though, scoring fewer than 1 point per game less at 547 total. This Packer team put up 35 points or more 9 times this season. 6 times they put up at least 42 points with a maximum of 49. Only twice this season were they held under 24 points. 14 in the regular season and 20 in the playoffs. These 2 games though accounted for their only losses of the season. Green Bay wasn't much for running the ball this year, but they did finish 3rd in total offense, 3rd in passing offense, and were 2nd best in limiting turnovers. Edging into the number 9 spot is the 2016 Atlanta Falcons. Now this was only an 11-5 team, but that can be attributed to the defense. The offense led the league in scoring, and at times looked like they could do whatever they pleased, especially as the season wore on. Their offensive C-score lands at 29.394. Atlanta put up 540 points this season, just under 34 points a game, and just under 50% better than league average. For the second straight entry, we see the Saints as the number 2 scoring team in the league, but they were much further away from the Falcons than they were from the Packers at 469. 13 times this season, including twice in the playoffs, Atlanta cleared 30 points. 40 points or more were hit 6 times with a max of 48. Just 1 time this season they were held under 23 points, but it must be said that the offense only scored 21 points in the Super Bowl. They were the number 2 offense in the league overall, and they showed some balance. 3rd in passing, 5th in rushing, and they were tied for the best team in the league at not turning the ball over. We're going to go back in time just a little bit for our number 8 entry. These are the 1983 Washington Redskins. They were 14-2 this season, with both losses coming by a single point. Yes, they led the league in scoring, but they also did it against what was tied for the 10th hardest schedule in the league. That will give them an offensive C-score of 29.749. The Redskins' point total of 541 points might not look super impressive on the surface, but when it took place in 1983, it was an NFL record for most points scored in a season. They were just under 34 points per game, and they were about 55% better than league average. They cleared the Dallas Cowboys in 2nd place by over 60 points. 12 times they scored 30 points or more, including once in the playoffs, and 4 times they scored 42 points or more, which also included 1 playoff game. They maxed out this season with a 51-point game. Only 3 times this season they were under 27 points, but 2 of those were in the playoffs, including the Super Bowl where they only managed to score 9. In a very close finish, they were 3rd in the league in total offense, 7th in passing, and 3rd in rushing. But not so very close was their number 1 ranking in preventing turnovers. Our number 7 offense is the 2018 Kansas City Chiefs, the first year with Patrick Mahomes as the starting quarterback. They went 12-4. Of course, they led the league in scoring while playing a middle-of-the-road schedule. They pushed the 30-point mark in offensive C-score, but didn't quite get there at 29.938. These Chiefs were good for 565 points this season. That is more than 35 points per game and better than 51% over league average. The Rams gave them a run for their money but came up short with 527. 14 times this season, the Chiefs put up 30 points or more, including in 2 playoff games. They scored 45 points or more 5 different times and actually took the loss in 2 of those games, including their high point of the season where they scored 51 points. Their 3 lowest scoring outputs this season were 27 points twice and 26 points once, but those were all victories. They led the league in total offense and were also 3rd best in passing. Our number 6 entry has the weakest record in our top 10, and by 65 points has the worst point differential. This would be the 2000 St. Louis Rams. You certainly cannot blame the offense for these outputs. They led the league in scoring while simultaneously being last in points allowed. Their schedule was the 10th easiest in the league, but that didn't stop the greatest show on turf from clearing the 30-point mark in offensive C-score, landing at 30.927. If you wanted to see points scored during the 2000 season, you could do a lot worse than turning on a Rams game. They put up 540 on their own, just under 34 points per game, but better than 63% higher than league average. The Denver Broncos trailed way behind in second this season with 485 points scored. 11 different times St. Louis put up 35 points or more. 6 different times they hit the 40-point mark or higher. Only 1 time this year did they finish under 20 points, and that was a 3-point game. They led the league in total offense. They also led the league in passing offense. We're in the second half of the countdown now, and this is a mighty powerful top 5. When at number 5, we have the 1998 Minnesota Vikings. Thanks in due part to their defense, which was 6th best in the league in points allowed, this team finished 15-1 with a plus 260 point differential. But the headline of this team was certainly the offense, leading the league in scoring. This C-score would have been a little bit higher if that strength of schedule was a little bit stronger, but this is a very high score nonetheless at 32.009. The Vikings drafted Marshall wide receiver Randy Moss in round 1 and promptly set an NFL record with 556 points scored this season. That was good for 34.75 per game, more than 63% better than the league average. The only other team this year to hit 500 points were the Broncos at 501, 55 points behind Minnesota. 12 different times, including once in the playoffs, they put up 31 points or more. 5 different times, including the playoffs, they put up 41 points or more, one time hitting 50. They never scored under 24 points this season. They were actually second in total offense, but led the way in passing offense and were the 3rd best team at not turning the ball over. We've got another record-setting team here at number 4 with the 2013 Denver Broncos. This team finished 13-3 despite giving up the 11th most points this season. Naturally, the offense made up for that and then some, leading the league in scoring against a schedule that was in the bottom 10, but that's not enough to obscure how overwhelming this offense was at times. This offensive C-score sits at 32.156. And they were record-breaking indeed, becoming the first and to date only NFL team to clear 600 points in a season, putting up exactly 606. This was just under 38 points per game and at 61.8% better than the league average. While Denver was busy clearing 600 points, no other team cleared 500 points. In fact, no other team even cleared 450 points, with the Chicago Bears next best at 445. 13 different times this Bronco team scored 31 points or more, 6 times they scored 41 points or more, including 2 times at 51 and once at 52. They were held under 27 points 4 times though, including all of their playoff games, which includes an 8-point effort in the Super Bowl. Nonetheless, they led the league in total offense and in passing offense. Sliding into the number 3 spot is the offense of the 2009 New Orleans Saints. That 13-3 record was certainly a product of the offense, which led the league in scoring, despite only finishing 20th in points allowed. Helpful to the Saints this season was their strength of schedule, which was tied for 10th best in the league. That was just enough to give them a boost over their nearest competitors at 32.782 points of offensive C-score. New Orleans was able to put up 510 points this season, despite mostly taking it easy as the season neared its end. This was good for just under 32 points per game and just under 50% better than league average. Their nearest competitor were 2.5 points per game behind them, with the Minnesota Vikings at 470 points. 30 points or more hit the Saints scoreboard 12 times this season, including 3 times in the playoffs. They put up 45 or more 5 times, including 1 more time in the playoffs, reaching a maximum of 48 points twice. They were under 24 points 3 times, but those were in the last 3 regular season games, which were all losses. They were the league's number 1 overall offense, displaying great balance with a 4th place finish in the pass game and a 6th place finish in the run game. Coming in at number 2 are the 1991 Washington Redskins. This isn't their only number 2 distinction, as only the 1985 Chicago Bears finished higher than them in total C-score during the Super Bowl era. This was a total team, finishing second in points allowed and of course leading the league in scoring. Alongside a middle-of-the-road schedule, they cranked out an offensive C-score of 33.252. Even though they finish here at number 2, this Redskin team is the only team in this top 10 to score fewer than 500 points during the season. Context is everything, as in 1991, 485 points was excellent. It was over 30 points per game, nearly 60% better than league average, and ahead of the Buffalo Bills in second place at 458. 10 different times, including twice in the playoffs, they scored at least 33 points. 5 different times, including once in the playoffs, they put up at least 41 points. They maxed out at 56. Only twice this season they were held under 20 points, but they still won both of those games. They were very balanced across the board in the rankings. They were 4th overall, 5th in passing, 7th in rushing, and tied for 3rd in limiting turnovers. But in what shouldn't be too much of a shock, the number 1 offense of the Super Bowl era belongs to the 2007 New England Patriots. Going undefeated during the regular season and outscoring your opponents by nearly 20 points per game requires a total team effort, which the Patriots had. But make no mistake about how this team's bread was buttered. They set a new NFL record for points scored, which naturally led the league. With a middle-of-the-road strength of schedule to boot, these Patriots put up an offensive C-score of 36.453. That record-setting point total landed New England at 589. This was nearly 37 points per game, but most impressively, this was almost 70% better than the league average. Their closest competitor was well behind the Dallas Cowboys, who put up 455 points. New England scored 31 points or more 13 times. They scored 48 points or more 4 times. Twice they cleared 50 points, maxing out at 56. Only 3 times this season were they under 24 points, but 2 of those occasions took place in the playoffs, including a 14-point effort in the Super Bowl. That said, they were the best in the league in 3 separate offensive categories: total offense, passing offense, and turnovers. Looking at the top 10 as a whole, we can see that these teams are fairly evenly divided. The gap between number 6 and number 5 was barely more than a single point. Every other gap was by less than 1 point, until we reach the Patriots at number 1, who are more than 3 points clear of their nearest competition. The Redskins are the only franchise to appear more than once, and they are the only franchise to appear before the advent of the salary cap and free agency era, when offensive football became much more prevalent, resulting from a series of rule changes. 6 of these teams were able to advance to the Super Bowl, but only 2, the 91 Redskins and the 09 Saints, were able to win it. Perhaps the old adage is true after all. Offense sells tickets, but defense wins championships. Thank you so much for making it to the almost end of this video. After looking at the worst defenses, the worst offenses, and the best offenses, we will soon be turning our attention to the best defenses. Be sure to join us for that one. Give this video a like, share it around, subscribe to the channel, and ding that bell to receive notifications about all our future releases. Let me know what you think about all of this. I don't imagine our top 5 will receive too much disagreement, but perhaps you feel they should have been ordered differently. Is there another offense you felt should have made it to the top 10? If so, who would you take out in its place? Sound off on these topics or anything else you may have on your mind down in the comments section below. Thank you once again for joining us today, and until next time, I hope you have an awesome day.